Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for spending your hour with us today for our Wednesday webinar series. My name is Alice Fox, and I am the Director of Talent Delivery at Talent Connections. I am joined by Susan Kent, Vice President of Career Spa, and John Palumbo, Director of Marketing for Talent Connections. A few housekeeping items today is that one, this is a 1-hour recorded webinar. If you have any technical questions, please email John Palumbo at the address you see on your screen. Participants will be muted. We use the question feature to submit questions. Please be aware that we do have polls and interactive questions throughout the presentation, and it is always great to get as many to participate as possible. So we will also have a question and answer time either during the presentation or definitely at the end. So make sure that you are aware that when we do submit a poll. The other thing is too, this webinar is approved for 1 SHRM Professional Development Credit, and that activity code will be given at the conclusion of the webinar. Today, I am pleased to introduce Tom Simonson, our speaker. Tom is a partner and managing director for Creative Planning Retirement Services and is based in Charlotte, North Carolina. His primary responsibilities include new business development and strategic consulting to plan sponsors regarding governance, fiduciary liability, mergers, acquisitions, and plan optimization. He has more than 25 years of retirement plan industry experience, including senior leadership and client consulting roles for a global benefits consulting firm and a business development for one of the nation's largest retirement plan providers. He is a certified financial planner as designated by Certified Financial Planner Board of Standards Incorporated and the Certified Employee Benefits Specialist as designated by the International Foundation of Employee Benefits. Tom received his bachelor's in finance from Iowa State University and his MBA from Wake Forest University. Go Deacons. At this time, I'm so glad to have you, Tom. Thank you so much for being here, and take it away.
Thank you so much, Alice, and welcome everyone. Looking forward to spending the next 55 minutes with you chatting about improving your employees' financial well-being. We're going to touch in 3 main areas today. First, a review of why employees need help, what the key indicators are, and why it should matter to you as an employer. We'll then transition to talk a bit about effective program design. In our experience, what works well and some areas to maybe avoid along the way. And then lastly, we'll touch on how to monitor your program and what areas to key in on to determine if you're moving the needle effectively or not. A little bit about who we are. As Alice mentioned, I'm with Creative Planning Retirement Services. We're one of the nation's largest retirement plan advisory firms, or part of Creative Planning, which is also one of the nation's largest wealth management firms. And so we're in a unique position in that we have experts in both institutional retirement plan consulting and a high degree of expertise in working with individuals and families to improve their financial well-being. We serve more than 2,000 clients across the country and do so through more than 125 specialist associates across the country. We're going to kick things off with a poll question. So take a moment to locate that within the Zoom application. Poll question number 1 is really simple. Do you currently offer a formal financial wellness program? Yes or no? Give everybody a moment here to respond. Just simply trying to get a gauge for those that have already begun to venture into this space versus those that may be in a spot of just starting to think about offering this within their company.
Can you see that, Tom?
I do, yeah. So about a third responded that they do currently offer a plan, about 2/3 do not. So thank you for that. We'll keep that in mind as we proceed. So when we think about helping employees, financial help is a key area. You may have likely designed benefit programs that help your employees in a wide range of areas, but oftentimes the help they need financially goes unmet. And as we think about what the key indicators are to establish that need, it really breaks down into a few key areas. On the right-hand side, you'll see that the number one stressor for Americans today is money. More than their own health, health of their family, work-related stress, money is the number one source of stress in your employees' lives. That has increased significantly over the last 5 years with additional pressure related to inflation and continued challenges with higher interest rates on things like credit cards, compounds the effect on those that are already stressed about their personal finances. The impact to that, you'll see, causes employees to rethink their work tenure. 67% of employees plan to push back their retirement date by an average of 6 years to be more financially stable. And so those employees will stick around longer as part of your workforce, which creates additional costs for your organization. Now, some of that could be offset by the fact that you're retaining a highly experienced, in most cases, employee. But from a financial point of view, it does create additional healthcare costs, increased incidence of workers' compensation claims, and other matters that are specific to an aging workforce. At the bottom, 41% of these financially stressed employees are embarrassed to seek guidance on their finances. The reality is your personal finances, your money, for most is a bit of a taboo subject. Many did not talk about it growing up in their family. Most schools over the last several decades do not teach personal finance courses. And so it's very much left up to on your own to learn about effective personal financial planning. As we think further about why that should matter to you as an employer, a couple of key stats that are important, particularly when you're establishing the need within your organization to implement a program for the first time. An effective financial wellness program typically has a cost associated with it. And often you'll get asked by those that are approving budgets, why? Why should we do this? Why isn't this just something that employees should take care of themselves? So a few key stats to keep in mind. Most importantly, here, 36% of employees who say they're stressed about their finances are looking for a new job. The reality is many who are dealing with financial challenges in their life will attempt to try to solve those issues by simply finding a new job with a slightly higher wage. Instead of addressing the underlying issues related to their financial stress, they'll simply seek out an opportunity to make more money. Unfortunately, as the old adage goes, the more you make, the more you spend. They tend to stay in the same cycle of financial stress. The stress also creates lost productivity, in addition to the turnover that I mentioned, and other factors that ultimately cost employers on average 11 to 14% of their payroll costs annually. And you'll see there that this stress from a financial point of view ends up embedding into personal health as well. More than 3 times more likely to experience anxiety, 4 times more likely to suffer from depression. Work productivity goes down in terms of missed deadlines and lower quality work. So all of this has an impact to you as an employer. And so we think about, well, gosh, how do employees solve these issues? More than half of employees do not have a financial advisor today. many wouldn't know where to look even if they wanted one. And many wouldn't have the necessary assets to meet minimums that a lot of financial advisors require to engage their services. However, 52% of workers would want to speak with a financial professional if they needed help making a change to their finances. They want help, they're just not sure where to find it. Beyond maybe Googling an answer to a financial question or two, they need access to real quality advice. And so as you think about solving that as an employer, an overwhelming majority of employees would find it attractive if their employers offered holistic financial advice. We've already talked about the stress that's continuing to pressure their home lives. And the reality is they're embarrassed to seek out guidance. So somewhere we need to help them solve their challenges in a way that gives them dignity and access in a very easy way to quality financial help. Most plan sponsors, most employers will often, very common benefits like 401k, retirement savings plans, health, life, disability programs. I'm sure virtually all of you offer a health wellness plan as well. And so what's lacking is really this financial piece, the ability to provide them financial coaching. And a lot of it centers on financial basics, budgeting, debt management. How can they improve their credit score so they can purchase a new home or get out of credit card debt? We see a lot of employees that are torn between trade-offs. They want to save for their kids' college education, yet they also want to save for their own retirement. And how do you balance those priorities? So there's a whole host of areas that they have questions about that most employers aren't providing answers today. So we'll pause here. Poll question number 2. Does your program, if you offer one, provide access to today one-on-one meetings with a financial coach, maybe a website to get personalized advice, or possibly you're providing periodic educational content, webinars, newsletters, those kinds of that kind of content as well. And you can select more than one here.
Tom, this is when we said we needed that music for everybody to take time to question it. So if everybody can jump on real quick and take time to answer this poll for us. We've got one more and we'll be at 100% here. We're doing great, and I will end it. And there you go.
All right, great. Thank you for responding. Not surprising. The most common way to provide information is through educational content. A couple provide access to advice through a website, and one noted that they have one-on-one meetings with a financial coach. So we'll come back to that here as we proceed. So thanks for sharing your insights. So as we think about designing a program, all those areas are critical to an effective program design. We know that employees tend to engage with information in a variety of different ways. Some are very personal, that they want to talk with someone about what's on their mind, questions they have, and really won't take action without being able to bounce an idea off someone or get access to advice in an area that they just aren't knowledgeable about. Others are more of the self-service type, where they will engage with a digital tool, a website, an app, something like that. Especially in the beginning, they may be curious about the topic and want to, on their own, do a little bit of research and see if they can maybe find an answer. But often, even if they find an answer, won't trust what's on a technology app or website. They'll ultimately, if it's a major financial decision, want to seek out an individual to help validate the direction that they're thinking about heading. And then lastly, at the end of the day, the best way for them to move forward and actually take action is they want advice. Information is helpful, but we know that information alone doesn't drive action. And so at the end of the day, they want to engage with someone that will give them unbiased advice and point them in their best next step direction. Couple that multi-medium challenge is the fact that employees have a wide range of financial needs. And so as you think about designing a program, what we've seen from many is more of a focus on a single area of need. That might be related to college debt, tuition, support, college savings, or it might be related to savings advice in a 401k plan. What we know that if you're an employer of any size, you've got employees with a wide range of priorities. And so thinking about your employees through a couple of key personas can be useful as you start examining solutions and how they might meet the broadest set of your employees possible. Common personas are listed here. Certainly the one we see most common is those struggling with debt. Debt is a universal issue. It doesn't matter how much money you make. Virtually everyone has debt. It just looks different based on your individual situation. And so even if you're a higher income individual, you could still be struggling with debt as much as a lower income individual could be. Many employees are growing their family, having children, grandchildren, maybe taking care of an elderly parent. You've got all these dynamics at play that cause decisions to be made related to their finances, and it causes that stress that I mentioned earlier. Some may be in a great spot from a debt and a budgeting standpoint. They're in that sweet spot of being able to save effectively, but they still have questions. Should I be saving more in my 401k, or should I max out my health savings account? Or should I be doing a 529 plan for my children or my grandchildren? Should I be taking advantage of the 401k plan through pre-tax or Roth? All these decisions make what seems like a very simple task of saving very complicated. Once they begin saving, they have questions about how to invest. Most employees, as you can imagine, are not investment specialists, and so they want help. And we're going to talk a little bit more about ways that we can meet that need more personally. And then lastly, we certainly hope all employees hit that finish line, run through the tape, and are excited about moving into retirement with really strong retirement income. But there are a lot of questions as they hit that red zone leading into retirement about Social Security, Medicare, how do they evaluate their different options, timing, how to take benefits, very complicated. And so having access to advice can make a huge difference for those employees to retire on time and fully informed.
Yeah.
Let me pause there and see if there are any questions so far.
We do not have any questions that we have been posted right at the moment, so I think we're good.
Okay, great. Well, we'll keep moving here. So as we think about designing a financial wellness program, we really keep those three core elements in mind. We want to make sure that employees have access to a financial wellness consultant, someone that can be a financial coach and really be that personal connection that they need to have a conversation about whatever's on their mind. You think about those personas, and it can be a wide range of questions. So we want to be in a position to help that employee with whatever question they have at whatever point in need they're at. We recently had, just as a quick example, one of our clients' employees scheduled a one-on-one meeting with one of our financial wellness consultants. That employee was experiencing a significant amount of stress taking care of an elderly parent. That elderly parent needed assisted living type of care, and the employee at that time was responsible for paying for those services. Through the help of our financial wellness consultant, we were able to point that employee to the direction of a few resources that ultimately he was able to help his mother, in this case, qualify to have those services paid through Medicaid and other support type of services. Lifted a huge financial burden off of this employee, and one that he had no idea that type of financial support was even available. And it's not surprising. It's not something that you really ever think about until it really happens to you. So those are just the types of questions sometimes that come in with our one-on-one meetings. We also offer a website we call Financial Guide that really serves those employees who want to self-serve into information. But more importantly, that website actually provides advice to the employee once they have completed their profile, included personal information about their financial picture, that allows us to really capture the employee's next best step and gives them a short to-do list. They can take that action on their own through the website, or they could simply use it as a guide to then engage one of our wellness consultants through a one-on-one discussion. And then lastly, I mentioned the device through the website. Ultimately, being able to, in a workplace setting, address the need that many employees have of investment advice within their 401k or 403b plan. That comes up quite often in the conversations that our consultants have, and we want to be able to meet that need as well. And so we're going to talk a little bit further about that need for 401k advice. Because you're offering these programs in the workplace setting, that becomes their initial thought of their savings vehicle and how to best allocate their dollars. And what we know today is, for most employees, this is a very complicated topic. It's not like it used to be, where an employee just has your 401k plan to participate in and nothing else. For many, especially mid to late career employees, they have a lot of accounts that they've aggregated. Nearly 37% of participants today have savings in 2 or more prior employers' plans. So they have assets scattered about, they have other types of savings, other types of goals, and makes this a very personal type of decision. And so this has evolved over the last 2 decades or so, when initially a retirement plan participant would be defaulted into a cash account, a money market type account. That was very common. That evolved over time into using some type of asset allocation fund. If employees didn't know where to invest or wanted help investing, they could use, say, a risk-based, an aggressive portfolio or a conservative portfolio. The challenge there is it required the employee to know what their risk tolerance was. And we know that most of us as individuals miscalculate our own risk tolerance. Then came the advent of target date funds. I'm sure many of you offer these in your plans today. It's become a very popular and convenient way for employees to invest their dollars in a way that is age appropriate. The challenge we're seeing there is every target date fund has a set of assumptions that inevitably don't match all of your employees. And so how do we help those employees personalize their investments further? Just to keep it really simple, you may have two 50-year-old employees in a target date fund. They're having the same investment asset allocation. And quite simply, if one's a male and one's a female, through what we have as expected mortality, we know the female on average is going to live longer. And so their life expectancy should impact their asset allocation differently than their male counterpart that's the same age. So that's just a simple example of where the personalization can matter. And so you can see on the right-hand side, really where we've seen the personalization go for employees to move away from an allocation that's just based on their risk or just based on their age, and can include a variety of different personal factors that fine-tune that investment advice specific to them. Now, many of these vehicles are known in the industry as a managed account. You may offer that type of solution in your 401k or 403b plan today. Historically, it required a high degree of engagement by the employee. They had to enter a lot of information into the website to get a personalized outcome. The reality today is, in most cases, you're providing the large majority of the personalized information that's needed just through your regular demographic and payroll contribution file feeds into the plan each and every pay period. And so your service providers are able to take advantage of that information and really personalize an investment for your employee. And so I mentioned earlier, where a target date fund can be a one size fits all. There will be instances where that one size isn't optimal for that employee. And you'll see on the right-hand side some different factors that might impact why an employee might be slightly more conservative or slightly more aggressive than where a target date fund would place them. Managed accounts do come with a fee, a cost associated with them, as do financial wellness programs. In a recent study that was conducted independently by the UCLA Anderson School of Management, concluded that the value of holistic financial advice is worth 7.5% of their account value each year. So we know it's worth it. The fee that they might pay or you might pay on their behalf is nowhere near 7.5%. And so they're advancing their outcomes simply by taking advantage of the advice that you make available to them. I'm going to hit on just a couple of other examples just to put a finer point on what this could look like for different types of employees. You'll note here, this particular sample employee is a young professional with student loans, no emergency savings, and they're not really thinking about retirement. This is probably one of my kids coming right out of college, and they're just getting their career started. And so their biggest needs are really outlined here, how we would think about prioritizing what's most important for them. And so you can see, we'll dig in on the student loan options. Are they eligible for refinancing? Would that benefit for them? Do they work for a not-for-profit that would allow for some loan forgiveness? Help them establish an emergency savings. This has become a hot button topic with some of you may know within Secure 2.0 Act that made emergency savings options within a 401k plan more feasible today. Regardless of the method, giving employees an easy way to start building an emergency savings fund is critical, particularly at the early age where they may not have the income to withstand an emergency cash flow need. And then ultimately optimizing the amount of dollars they're allocating to debt and savings and making sure that their investments are aligned for growth over the long haul. You compare this to someone who maybe is more mid-career. They're thinking about buying a larger home. They have children. Maybe they have an insurance. They're lacking insurance in certain areas. and they're focused on needing to save more for their eventual retirement. Home affordability, I'm sure I don't have to tell anyone right now, is a huge challenge as Americans look to move into a new home with interest rates and the inflationary pressure on home prices. This requires a lot of homework to make the math work, to try to prevent employees from buying too much of a home, taking on too much of a mortgage where it places additional pressure on their finances. Insurance is critical for many employees in that mid-career state where they have a lot of people that are depending on them financially. And so making sure they're taking advantage of all the benefits that you have available for them, whether it's voluntary life insurance, disability insurance, those kinds of things. And then for many, it's that trade-off that I mentioned earlier, saving for retirement, saving for a kid's education. How do you balance that? And what are the optimal ways to do so? And then lastly, as you get to saving for retirement, what's the best way to allocate those dollars, pre-tax versus Roth? In most cases, not enough employees are taking advantage of the Roth feature in a plan. For many, they're in a better tax position today, or a better position today to go ahead and pay the tax through a Roth contribution and take advantage of that tax-free withdrawal at the end of the day. One more here, just to give you another example. We see this type of profile quite often where credit and debt has become a huge impediment to an employee moving their financial life forward. And in many cases, they are in a spiral that they just can't get themselves out of. And so really focusing their help on repairing that credit. What are small steps that can be taken to improve their credit score, to focus on higher interest rate debt, consolidation, all those techniques to improve their debt situation and monitor it over time. It can be very easy to feel guilty about your debt situation and a poor credit score, where you stick your head in the sand and just try to ignore it. Obviously, that's not going to improve the situation. So giving them access to easy tools that they can use to monitor those hopefully easy wins in the beginning that start to move the needle in a positive direction. And then lastly, pretty much all employees, with a few exceptions, they want to figure out how to retire. And so what should be a real exciting time for them becomes very stressful because they lack information and are uncertain about how much they need to save, whether they have enough, and how government programs like Social Security fit into the mix. And so being able to really sit down specifically focused on that end of the rainbow scenario for them to hopefully address early enough if there are some shortfalls, maybe have some tough conversations about working longer or taking a part-time job in retirement, but ultimately giving them the information they need to make a good decision about when they can retire. All right, that was a long section, so let me pause here for our last poll question. Anytime you implement a program, hopefully you're measuring it. But if you're not today, it would be helpful to know that as well. So the financial wellness program that you offer today, one, we don't currently measure the outcomes, the results, the engagement. Two, we measure it through gauging how much the tools and resources are being used. Or three, we're measuring it by examining employee outcomes.
There you go. I have launched it. Oh, everybody jumped on quickly. If everybody's doing great at jumping on quickly for this one, Tom. It's great. I have a couple more people who could answer to get to a little bit higher. Excellent. There you go.
All right, great. Thank you for responding. And that's typical, the most common being we don't currently measure. And so it's important to measure any type of program that you're putting time and effort into to see if it's creating the outcomes that you're hoping for. And that's really where I'm going to focus the last portion of our time together. At the end of the day, when you implement a financial wellness program, many will evaluate, monitor front end engagement, simply how many people are using a tool or engaging with a website, or even talking with a counselor one-on-one. And while all those items are necessary, they don't in and of themselves move the needle. And so it's important that we're aware of those input variables, but at the end of the day, we want to measure our employees taking positive action as a result of the program that you're making available to them. And so here's a snapshot of one of the ways that we monitor results for clients. It gives us a gauge on the topics that are being discussed to understand what employees are most interested in within their workforce. And so you can see in this particular case, it's a wide range. As I mentioned earlier, debt is very common. They may have multiple plan types. I mentioned that statistic earlier, 37% have 2 or more retirement accounts. And then, of course, since it is offered in the workplace, often they have questions about their work retirement plan, 401k, 403b, how do they effectively use it? Emergency fund is another very common. So you can see that just the wide range in this one example of the topics that are discussed. But then evolving from that, what are the outcomes that are being experienced through the program? Are they making positive changes, increasing their contribution rate to their work retirement plan, maybe enrolling for the first time? We have many that on the financial basics, they haven't elected a beneficiary. So making sure that that important element is taken care of. Addressing debt. These will be, from an outcome standpoint, consolidation of multiple debt accounts, paying down, improving credit scores. All those areas are encompassed in this debt area. Preventing loans, preventing hardships. Those are all positive actions. If we can redirect them to other more appropriate sources for obtaining the cash they need for whatever it is that they're trying to accomplish. So these are just a couple of examples of outcomes that you can measure. Additionally, you want to know what are the mental benefits that are being derived from the program as well. And some of these are difficult to quantify through numbers alone, but I'll direct you to the right-hand side. These are some excerpts from some of the respondents to, we survey every employee when they meet one-on-one with one of our financial coaches. We have a 22% response rate. So for those of you that know about surveys, you know that that is about 5 times what's typical. Our counselors also have a net promoter score of 94, which is almost unheard of. So we know that these interactions matter. They're important. People want to provide feedback because they're having a great experience. And so you can see the kinds of questions that are being asked. And they may seem fairly elementary, but they do wonders for reducing stress. Things like just being able to answer questions or making arrangements that they didn't know the answers to. Being treated with respect. Think back to the beginning of our presentation today and how people are embarrassed to seek guidance on their finances. That respect is critical to help them move forward and also come back for more guidance and advice later. So you'll see other comments here that we really focus on as another outcome measurement that goes beyond just numbers. These are important, particularly in the beginning of a program, to demonstrate, are we off to a good start? Are these conversations moving employees in a positive direction? With that, we'll pause and take any questions you may have, or any topics that maybe we didn't directly touch on.
Thank you so much, Tom, for all that great information. I know that it was your slides were so detailed with a lot of great information for sure. So I know you're going to show your contact information coming up for anyone who wants to reach out to you. I do have one thing. It was interesting that you mentioned about high school personal finance classes. I've got teenage boys or young adults now, but in terms of they know how to do all these things, but they don't know how to balance a checkbook. They don't know how to do some of the, write a check even of, where does the date go? What do you write in there? So I think that's definitely a lost art there. We're so concerned about, getting a 4.5 GPA but they don't know how to do some of the basic life skills. So I do think that is important. I will ask you a question, as everybody I'm sure is probably populating their question in there possibly. But what is, we said at the beginning, 67% of the participants on this had no financial wellness program with their company. What would you say kind of step one is to do in terms of being able to start one of these, to get some information, to collect information, to say, hey, we need to do this? What would you say that would be?
Yeah, thank you for that, Alice. It really starts with an initial assessment, even an awareness. Hopefully you've gained some of that today, of what are the core elements that you would want to include in the program. And the reason I say that is there are so many providers and solutions in this space today, and they really run the gamut. There's many very high quality options, but they're not all built the same. And so my advice would be not to go into it thinking that they're all about the same and we'll just pick something, say, based on cost or familiarity. What we've outlined today, we think is important to consider in terms of the multiple touch point approach, understanding that employees prefer to receive information and help in a wide range of ways. What we see most often is many of these solutions are technology-based only, and many of them are just information only. And those tend to have a pretty short shelf life. People drop in, they'll maybe play around with the tool and get a little bit of information, and then they never come back to it. So having something that is an ongoing resource with access to a real life human that can give them ongoing advice, we think is critical to consider as you're putting your thoughts together about a program.
Thank you for that. I will say I'm guilty as well. As soon as somebody talks about numbers, I hear Charlie Brown's teacher of wah 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 wah. So I understand that people can just go away from it instead of embracing that, just, hey, it's so important. Especially I will say my oldest son did. He's 23 and started his first job, and he just met with a friend of ours who's a financial advisor to start his Roth IRA. And I said, well, there you go. There's starting something from the scratch. But his company talking about, as people join organizations, I do think it's important that this is part of the offerings as well too. So.
Yeah, and Alice, just to build on your point about not learning some of these skills in school. We have 3 boys, all out of high school now, but I remember several years ago, they were going through, the school was considering adding some new electives to their curriculum for their high school students. And personal finance was one of the electives they were considering making available. Unfortunately, instead of making that part of the required curriculum, they took a poll to see how many students would be interested in that course, and no surprise, not enough showed interest to
Of
offer.
course.
Like
Yes.
many of us, teenagers aren't any different. This is a subject that they're just not that interested in until it's too late. And so
Yeah.
it's really important that we provide financial help as early as possible. But even if it's not early in their career, it's important as well.
Yeah, I agree with that as well, and very good points, because I do think nobody, like I stated about myself, no, everybody, and I know you had said it too, putting your head in the sand about that this is an important thing to dive into and know and be cognizant of what all of your how your financial status is, but it is, and get overwhelmed with the contact, so then you or with the information, and so you kind of do I'll think about that tomorrow, Scarlett, instead of, or what Scarlett says, I'll think about that tomorrow. So I agree with that, but it is a sad thing that it's not required in class. So, well, I know that if anybody does have a question, please make sure you do reach out with Tom. You can see the ways to connect with him on our screen right there. And we appreciate that too. Thank you so much for joining us today, everyone, for our Wednesday webinar series. A little information about who we are. Talent Connections is a human resources executive search and consulting firm located in Atlanta. We were founded in 1999, and we have spent over 2 decades perfecting our craft in HR services while creating thousands of transformative connections. We're actually celebrating our 25th anniversary this year, so we're excited about that. On our website, you'll also find a section of previously recorded webinars for you to view as well. Our sister company is Career Spa. It provides career transition and coaching services tailored to each individual, helping you discover your career path and secure an advantage in this evolving job market. Our website is on there as well for Career Spa, if that is a need for you. The activity code, Tom, if you want to go to the next screen, there it is. The activity code for today is 24-G3HW7, and this has been approved for 1 professional development credit for recertification through SHRM. Please be sure to note the activity ID number on your recertification application form, and there is the website if you need to go and visit them for that information. Remember to mark your calendars for our next Wednesday webinar. We're excited to continue our series, and it'll be always the same time on from 12 to 1 Eastern time. Thanks so much again, Tom. We want to really appreciate your time today with us for sure. And thanks to all the participants, and everyone. Have a great rest of your day. And if you're in the Florida area, stay safe, and we will talk with you soon.